Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm back. See if we can get this working this time. See if I can get my man J Kev in here once again. See if we can get Kev back on. Again, it's D Live, Facebook, and YouTube. Okay, there's J Kev.
Leif, what's up? D Live, YouTube, Facebook. Hey, Leif, what's up, man? Can you see me? Can you hear? Uh, you're breaking up like super duper bad on me.
Yeah, weird. It's like time. Time. Know what the is. How's it? See if they get any better. Everybody still there? It's crazy. Glad you're able to make it. Okay. Yeah, for some reason my internet was dropping on my phone. I don't know why. I have like I got bars over here. I don't know what's going on. Let's see if I can get my man J Kev back up in here. Appreciate you guys for sticking around. Let's see. See if I can get my man J Kev back. Yeah, lately my Facebook has been tripping as of late. What's going on, Miss Constance? How are you? Okay. Yeah, J Kev's been invited, so hopefully he'll be back. Anyway, tonight, if you can hear me, somebody give me a thumbs up if you can hear me and see me, okay? Before I get going, because I've been having issues for some reason. Okay, cool. So I assume I'm doing well based on what Miss Constance said. Yeah, so tonight, one of the things I wanted to talk about was freedom and unity. Hopefully, we can get J Kev in here. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it, Lamar, he's been on live with my man Israel, and they were talking about, the trademark, that kind of issue. And Israel, good brother, he said some real good things. And one of the things that really stood out to me is when he was talking about the trademark and the value of a trademark and those kinds of things is the fact that, when he mentioned that if we're not unified, if we're not together as a people, as a group, then all of this other stuff doesn't matter anyway. And I really agree with that. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about tonight. That's the topic, freedom and unity. And just really, one, gauge you guys, gauge the audience, see what they think about it, see what really solidifies people in terms of unity. Freedom is, to me, is like a side effect of unity, and it's a good side effect, right? And so I just really wanted to talk to you guys and see what your thoughts are on it. How can we become more unified as a group? And what I mean by unity is really about mindset, right? Unified in mindset, unified in terms of the things that we desire, going after the things, the eradication of economic oppression and those kinds of things. Are we unified mentally, and are we prepared for those kinds of battles, right? The scriptures say, a friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. And so I was really just contemplating that. I didn't have anything, uh, in mind to say or anything like that. Had a lot of different things going on. So I was initially going to go on earlier live by myself. And then I was like, well, this could be a Two Shy Guys topic. So I hit up J Cab and he was good with it. And now we can't get him in. Hopefully we can get J Cab back on here in a second. But anyway, I just wanted to get your feedback on how can, we as a group, talking about the acquaintance, talking about everybody that, watches the streams that we do. We always talk about leveling up. We always talk about the building of community. What kind of things can we do to build that community? Let's see, my man Jeremy said, I think that the more we get together, we build those personal bonds. Uh, let's see, and then Constance said, not who is right, but what is right more so. Yeah, and to touch base on what Jeremy was talking about in terms of getting together, building those personal bonds, to me, that's the biggest aspect of all of this, right? Personally, in terms of names and groups and all of that stuff, I really don't care. It's just the way I am because I'm more like because I'm a brand guy, right? I'm a designer, been doing brands for years, been working on corporate brands, personal brands, the whole nine, right? And so the one thing that I do understand about brands is the fact that it has nothing to do with the name or the logo or the marketing or anything like that. It really has to do with the actual company and the products that that company puts out. So in terms of what could potentially happen, nothing has happened just yet. So we shouldn't, go down the rabbit hole of something, saying that something is going to happen. But really, the whole aspect of this to me is: are we together as a group? Are we unified in mindset? Are we unified in terms of literally trying to eradicate oppression, economic oppression? Economic disparities, opportunities, and those kinds of things. Are we really about that life? Are we really focused on those things, or are we, or any wind of challenge or adversity comes along, then it's like, oh well, it was good while it lasted. So that's really what I'm thinking about, what I'm talking about. Because again, at the end of the day, it's all about us, right? It's all about us bonding together as a people. Period. That's what matters at the end of the day. Community. Community is everything. I talk about it all the time because I truly, honestly believe that that is the end all be all in terms of humanity. If we don't have one another, if we don't have each other, then what's the purpose of being on this earth, right? Why are we sharing this same space and those kinds of things? So anyway, I just want to get you all's feedback. Like I said, hopefully my man Kev will come in and drop some jewels on this. I said continue these FB Live where we have intelligent black men spreading positivity to combat the negative stereotypes. Yeah, that's definitely one aspect of it. I definitely understand the power of media and how media can basically disrupt people. It's funny, right before I came on live, uh, somebody's live was on, and how once you watch a live, they show other live feeds, and it was about how all the news channels were saying the exact same thing, like Fox, CNN, CBS, all of them had like the exact same news. And so we got to definitely be very careful about the information that we take in. That's why I love platforms like Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, whatever. Even though that they're corporate owned and those kinds of things, they still give us opportunity to put voices in the wilderness, right? So that is definitely a good aspect. I see focus on lifting and not bashing. Yeah, Constance, I definitely agree with that. If we focus on the things that unify us, right? Focus on the commonalities and the goals. At the end of the day, you're talking about fighting economic oppression. Typically, you're talking about, okay, let's see what we can do for the least of us, right? Some people are better off than others, and also one of the things that helps, well, I guess not that helps, but that actually gets us apart and splits us apart is the fact that I don't know if you watch Atlanta or anything, the TV show. What's going on, Isaac? But there was an episode called "Stunting on Them," right? And oftentimes we're too busy trying to stunt on other people, and the fact that it's like, okay, let me show you what I got. Let me show you the things that I have and how I'm living and how you can't measure up to me and that kind of stuff. If we get rid of that would definitely help, right? Because one of the things that actually starts splitting people apart, separating us in terms of being unified, especially when we're talking about economic oppression, is when we see somebody getting up, right? Somebody getting ahead, and we feel jealous. We can't really take on. It's like okay, I want us all to get ahead, but I'm okay if I get ahead first, and then I can worry about everybody else, right? And then sometimes somebody gets out in front of us, and so we start backbiting. It's like, oh, well, I don't want that brother to shine. So, and those kinds of things start tearing people apart, and then you feel like you're being hustled. And, one of the things that I always remembered when I used to work in corporate. It was a saying that one of my old bosses he used to say. He was like, the uninformed inflame, right? When people don't know a lot of information, they start getting paranoid. They start getting, like, okay, what's really going on? So they start talking, and you start hearing a lot of chatter, and it's like, oh man, this person must be doing something, that's not above board. If they're getting ahead before I do, and so that jealousy starts creeping in, the envy and all of those things, and we got to be very careful when that happens, right? So let's see. So yeah, I know I stopped half thought. Kevin sent me a message in a second. CL said, notice that the Wakanda community was different when Lamar was doing lives and reminding people to unite in love. Uh, and then people posturing, not bringing together. Miss Constance said, what happened to simply sharing, not always selling? Yeah, definitely jockeying for position. Okay, Kevin's hit me in the back end, not realizing that I'm actually going on live. Yeah, I'm telling him to jump in. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. Yeah, I said what my man Isaac said. What blinded the eye and hardened the heart of man like vanity. Yeah, vanity and vexation of spirit, right? And it's those kinds of things. And going back to what Dr. Mulder was saying is, we're always trying to jock for position because again, once you're in a place of scarcity, again, we always talk about that scarcity model because it's very real, right? And going back to your point earlier about the media, as long as the media and the marketing and all of those kinds of things tell us that we lack and that we're behind, then you start getting the desperation in you when you see other people getting ahead, thinking that you won't get yours, right? And so you got to be very careful about jockeying for position because instead of unifying, instead of fighting together to get free of whatever it is that oppresses you, then you end up fighting on the side of the oppressor, and the oppressor has to do nothing, right? So we got to be very, very careful of that when we do those things. Let's see. I'm gonna see if I can add my man Jay Kev in real quick. Jeremy says, I don't like to keep giving energy to those who only seek to divide. If you can't state your argument without the personal attacks, I'll soon tune you out. Yeah, and it's funny. I was watching the a video of Chris Cuomo. He was talking about the president. He was talking about, typically if somebody's in a debate and they start name calling and talking about people, then we don't give that person any credence. But he's talking about people have been giving the president a pass when he does the same thing, and also you got to be very careful of that, which is another point I was actually going to bring up. It has nothing to do with the presidency per se, but it has to do with our affinity for leadership. And you got to be very, very careful when it comes to leadership and unity, right? And what I mean by that is oftentimes we want to put people up on pedestals and we don't give them the due respect. And what I mean by due respect is the fact we don't treat them like we treat everybody else. We tend to give a blind eye or lend a blind eye to things that aren't quite right instead of holding everybody to the same standard. And you got to be very, very careful about that, right? Going back to one of the earlier comments about CL, what he said, talking about not doing the lives and those kinds of things. One of the things that Lamar and I, we've actually talked about, you'll actually see us going on live more, but one of the things we were trying to do is actually back away, right? Back away, because when it comes to this whole, uniting people, trying to get free from oppressive systems and those kinds of things, the last thing that you truly want, even though it's what people desire, is a leader. You don't want a singular leader. That's the whole purpose of this distributed community, right? That's the whole purpose of it. That's the whole purpose and the reason why we're into cryptocurrencies and the power of the blockchain, these decentralized things, is the fact that you can't just get rid of one or two people. You have to get rid of the whole system in order to shut it down. And the more people start leaning on the need for leadership and leaning on the need to follow after somebody, uh, that's when you fall susceptible to the tricks that have been happening throughout history, right? It's like, oh, you either have a martyr, you have somebody that sells, you have all of these different things that they use to scatter people. So it's really the one of the things that we were trying to do, and people were like, oh no, you got to be the and all of this, and it's like, no, you don't get it. It's like if you start I'll give you an example, right? I'll let you jump in, Kev. I was just on the train of thought. One example, I was listening to somebody on the way back from Florida, and actually I was listening to an old Malcolm X. Uh, he was giving a speech, right? I think I talked about it before. I can't remember. I talked to
Yeah,
so
you
many different
did.
people. He was giving a speech, yeah, and he was talking about the civil rights leaders back in 19 was it 64? Whenever the I Have a Dream speech, the March on Washington, the famous one, and he was talking about the fact that they had been bought, like literally all of them. They had been bought, and he was like, it was common knowledge. He was living in that time, and he's like, you could call any one of them up. They were at this meeting, money and funds were given, and then the whole aspect of what they were doing shifted. So when you wonder what we really got out of the civil rights movement and all of those kinds of things in 1963, thank you, it really shifted into what it was supposed to be,
Yeah,
because it's
that
like
was
on the
co-opted. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it was co-opted. Go ahead, bro.
yeah,
I'll let you jump in.
well, let me jump in, everybody. I tried to jump in earlier. I don't know what happened, but yeah, just talking about movements and leadership and why you want a broad spectrum of leadership and leaders. You just don't want one or two people out there in the forefront. So yeah, it's good that you guys. I did notice that there are more people stepping up to the plate when it comes to doing live and actually showing their faces and actually talking and connecting and communicating. And when it comes to movements and making things happen, when it comes to establishing and maintaining freedom and unity, what you would like to do is initially you're going to have that 1 or 2% that actually gets the movement going. But what you hope
Thanks,
is
Rodney.
that signal is sent throughout the group, the tribe, the population, so that other individuals, other elders, other catalysts in the smaller or in the other circles of influence begin to actually take on the signal and start pushing it out. So if you do take out one node in the system's going to
Yep.
keep the idea is really what you want out there. And then you can kill people, but you can't kill an ideal. You can't kill a philosophy, a philosophical movement. So when you start a group that is undergirded or has in its pillars or in its essence love, and it's deeply established in the hearts and minds of all those in the group, then it doesn't matter who you take out. There's always going to be somebody else to come up and take the place and continue on with the fight. And like you said, let's just looking at the speech, I Have a Dream movement, and that's the whole thing about that. Yeah, I did. I remember hearing about that and how that was co-opted and it was pacified and turned into something it
Yep.
really wasn't supposed to be. But that, that's just one example of many examples
Yeah,
of what
it's tons of them.
yeah, yeah. Even today, that's why you have groups that fund and train up certain leaders or certain people, so that when they do see an uptick, the so one of the things, one of the cutting, one of the things about social media is it allows you to see these movements before they actually hockey stick. So if I see a trend or something hockey stick and getting ready to hockey stick, and a big shift about to change, and what I could do is send in a leader and co-opt
Yep.
the top, the head, and maneuver and steer crowds and masses in ways that I would like for them to go. Or I can do a COINTELPRO, like looking at the Black Panthers and how that works as far as digging into an organization and getting into leadership and actually injecting ideas and things that actually chip away at the philosophical undergirding of that group. So
Yep.
yeah, so yeah, that is a wise decision to not have just one or two people at the helm when it comes to group, especially when it comes to online and virtual in the virtual world. So I think,
Uh-oh.
oh,
Yeah, you froze for a second. Oh, Kevin's gone. Hopefully, I'm still here. Yeah. So hopefully Kevin will get back. Uh, Isaac, he had a good question. And a leader in the form of a figurehead. So I'll give a shot at it. Again, I'm not coming off as if I'm the all wise one. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But the difference between leadership and a figurehead is that one solid single person, right? So I'll give an example: the president of the United States, regardless of who it is, right? That person represents. So regardless if you love him or hate him or whatever, Donald Trump is the figurehead of the United States right now. When he goes out in the world, he represents the United States of America. You kill him and all of that kind of stuff, right? And also one of the things I wanted to point out is the same thing when we were talking about like leaders being co-opted. That's what lobbyists do, right? When we talk about our governments, we have lobbyists in the Congress, the Senate, and so when you think like the House of Representatives and those kinds of things, so you have lobbyists that go in and try to co-opt laws. They actually, in some cases, write those laws. So let's see. Hold on. I'm sorry, my man Kevin. He's back again. Let's see if I can add him back in. Yeah. So it's adding. So you have that, right? And again, they represent everything. If you destroy the Congress along with the president, then you basically disrupt the whole United States and the way it operates, right? So that's one aspect. But in terms of leadership, and again, he was talking about the Black Panthers, how they went in and pretty much co-opt that movement, changed the premise of what it was established to do. The same thing with the Crips and the Bloods, all of that kind of stuff. They have CIA documents on how they went in and created wars between the two rivals, but they made them rivals. They weren't necessarily rivals before, but they made them into rivals. You can see documentaries on there where they have government documents and all of that. But okay, so juxtaposing that to what I mean, what Isaac is asking about in terms of leadership. So leadership is, say that you're in a group of 1,000. It may be one person within that group of 1,000, or that does say that I do car repair, right? So I take leadership in terms of getting the cars repaired, and I build up other people. They follow me, and it has nothing to necessarily to do with my skill set. It really has to do with my compassion for other people and showing them the way. It's like, okay, this is how we can start doing this. So you have leaders that spring up in different categories, right? You see it. Actually, you start seeing some of it in Wakoinda in terms of you have different people with different expertise, right? So they may be leaders in their field, or they have a special, a special talent, right? But true that you're willing to give your life for, really. You'll follow them. It's literally what it is. It's like, okay, I'm going to be a trailblazer, you follow me down this path. But the thing is, you have to be very careful with that, is the fact that you don't follow them into the ditch, right? And that's one of the side effects of having a leader. The scriptures talk about it. They talked about it very heavily early on. It's like, hey, you want a man to lead you, then these are the things that come when men lead you, right? You, men are fallible. And that's one of the things really that I'm pointing out in terms of leadership and being very careful is the fact that, guess what? People know that people are fallible. That's why they bribe them, they kill them, they do whatever they can do to co-opt, whatever it is that they're trying to do. You know, the typical downfalls are, females, sex, if it's a woman, it's just sex in general, uh, drugs, pride. It's like really they just feed into all of those things that lift people up so they can take them down. So you got to be very careful. And in terms of having a decentralized leadership or a decentralized model is the fact that, okay, these are the things that you want to cultivate in the group as a whole. So that way, if it's not one single person that anything falls on. And that's one of the things I'm always very leery of, because again, those things eventually become your bottlenecks and your holdups, right? Those things can become the end of your movement if you have somebody that can be basically corrupted. That's really what it boils down to in the system. I understand that there's need for leadership in various ways, but again, the whole figurehead aspect, be very leery of that. You got to be very leery of that because, again, men are fallible and people come up with a whole lot of ways to make man fallible, right? Bribery, a whole lot of different things that causes that. But anyway, this is not a talk about leadership per se. I'm just talking about unity, right? Trying to get us to think as a collective. And again, a figurehead or leadership in this case could be, just us talking about this openly, getting people to think about these things that we're discussing, getting people to think about love and brotherhood and those kinds of things, because that's what really bonds and forms unity, is the fact that we have personal connections, interrelationships one with another. And those are the things that it's like, okay, if as long as my man Kev is doing something, I'm going to help him out because he's a good dude and these kinds of things, right? And you start developing those bonds with other people within the group, you can't in any way, shape, form, or fashion know everybody. It's just impossible. It's just
Yeah.
impossible to know everybody, right? But if you have clusters within the bigger cluster, again, going back to the analogy of the village we used to talk about a lot, it's like each hut represents family units within the village, right? Each hut has the common goal along with the rest of the village that, okay, this is how we operate, this is how we're going to do, this is the things that we're focused on, these are the things that we don't do within this group, right? And so that cluster links up with the few clusters around it, right? And again, it's just like centrifugal connections, right? They're all circles that overlap and connect that way, right? That's the decentralized units that we're talking about. So you can't just get rid of the first three and destroy the whole village. No, you got to go each and every hut and get rid of that. And essentially, you got to wipe out everybody in order for it to stop. And that's the
Man.
thing that we're trying to get. Well, me personally, that's one of the things I'm trying to get people to see is that, look, okay, we can all operate. We don't all have to, get along from the sense where, we locking arms and skipping down the road together. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Again, it's the common unified goal of eradicating economic oppression, period. It's like if I know you're in the village and I may not even know you, but the fact that you're in the village, I know that you have certain inalienable rights, right? I know that I'm going to protect that. I'm going to help you accomplish what you need because you're part of this village. You're part of this commonality. You're my kinfolk, so to speak, right? You're part of the tribe. So because you're part of the tribe, because you have the ink on your lip, I'm going to help you out and I'm going to do what's best for your common interest. That's what I mean by unity. It's like, because a lot of times when adversity comes in, yeah, clusters or whatever, when adversity comes in, instead of helping one another, we start fighting. It's like, let me survive, right? It's like you start worried about your own being, your own self, and your own little core. No, you got to worry about all of us, right? And so as long as we keep that mindset, we can fight for the common good on a consistent basis, regardless of what comes up. Because again, if you're part of that village, you understand and you realize that we're more powerful together than we are apart. And that's the thing that fear does. It makes you not realize that. It disorients you, right?
Well, fear paralyzes you, and
Yeah, all of
it
that.
segregates you, and it
Exactly.
begins to shut you off and cut you off from the strength of the tribe. That's why fear not using its proper way or channel is very very detrimental. Which is why it's such an effective tool when it comes to economic oppression, when it comes to marketing and sales.
Yep.
When it comes to just about any area of our life, the opposite of fear is love. And when
Yep.
you operate in fear, then that starts the process of the breakdown of the tribe or of the community. So I know I kind of been in and out. I don't know what the deal is as far as my connection on this end, and sorry about just jumping in and jumping out. Like when I was talking, literally, when I started talking about COINTELPRO and stuff, my thing just froze up, and I'm sitting here, and it just like went blank and cut me off. So maybe I hit a wrong few key words, and I need to be more careful about my speech there before I get deplatformed. But I ain't even got a platform. Like, Kevin, you've been deplatformed. I'm like, I ain't done nothing. You start seeing people and stuff coming in my door and stuff and putting bags over my face.
Yeah, don't separate on us, Kev. Don't separate on us, Kev. We're talking about
Gotcha.
freedom and unity, man.
But it's interesting that you're talking about that you hit on it, because literally I was thinking about the same thing earlier, because I just got through finishing listening to Lynchpin by Seth Godin, and
Yep.
he wrote some other books, and one of the books that he wrote about around the concept that you just so passionately and with clarity talked about and explained was tribes, and how we're going back. The internet has now made way for the more of tribes coming about, and how more important that is when it comes to uh, being ahead of the shift that is taking place, given that we're leaving the era of compartmentalization and the breakdown of everybody into one unit. The internet has opened up and allowed for the virtual building of tribes across nations, across lines, and across all just the world, pretty much. So when it comes to tribes, you talked about really there's you might have one chief mover and shaker within a particular node, but if you take out that chief, there's always another chief or somebody else to kind of step up and from the back give a little push, as far as, hey, push this back out in the community, keep it going, keep it resonating in the community. Man, you hit on so many things. Like you talked about sovereign, and that each and every individual is a leader. Meaning, each and every person is a sovereign in and of themselves, and they need each person. You really don't need a king. That was the whole original motto. Is that there was really every person was a sovereign that chose to participate and occupy a particular tribe or group. We weren't forced into it. So that was the original model. And going back to the village model that you always often push, and that is pushed in Wakanda, is that each and every person is a sovereign individual that comes in alignment with various people in the group. Doesn't mean everybody in the group is, like you said, locking hands and
Yeah.
everybody singing kumbaya. We might even go to war. But at the end of the day, we got to stop battling and face the bigger agenda at hand, which
Yeah.
is the eradication of economic oppression.
Yeah, let's see. CL says, speaking of tribes, tell Disney we too don't want to be mistakenly affiliated with you and change the name to Grand Rising Village. Keep it moving. Don't make the lawyers rich. Be proud and strong. Keep it moving. Yeah, again, for me personally, it has less to do with the quote unquote name or anything like that, but it really has to do with the integrity of the group, the integrity of the people in the group, making sure that again we all stay unified in terms of theme, we stay unified
Yeah.
in terms of love, and again, sometimes I think people have a misnomer about what love is. It's not about this kissy kissy face and all of this kind of stuff. No,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, I know that I'm gonna take care of you. I'm not gonna let anything happen to you that is not right. Period. I'm gonna speak up for you. I'm gonna help you, and if you need it, I'll give you food, shelter, whatever is that accommodates you. But it doesn't have to mean that we have to, like, oh man, I gotta have my arms around you, your neck all the time and say like, it's my homie. No, it's not about that. Again, we
Well,
we get caught up in all of this romanticized aspects of what love is supposed to be. No, at the end of the day, if I love you, even if I don't like you, I don't have to like you. I don't really have
no.
to like the way you smell, the way you look, the way you talk, the way you act. Uh, I don't have to like your sexual orientation. I don't have to like any of that. But again, at the end of the day, because I love you, I'm gonna make sure you have the necessary things to keep you going. Period.
Man,
That's what it's
that
all about. That's what unity is. It's like I don't have to agree with everything you do, but I care enough about you to make sure that you're okay. I care enough about you to make sure that you're not economically oppressed. I care enough about you to make sure that you have the necessities that you're supposed to have in order to survive. Period. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. That's as clear a definition of love that you can get, and you really hit on it. That love is more than a feeling. It's just at the base of it, at the heart of it, it's recognizing that each person is a human being made in the image of the Creator, and that at the very least, if I can help you be, live and uh, have substance of life, then that's what I do. I just don't let you fall by the wayside like a bug. Somebody who's not filled with love, they have no problem squashing or preying on another human being with
Oh,
absolute
yeah.
disregard. Yeah, so that's
Oh,
what it looks like when you're not operating in love. So operating in love is like the good Samaritan, I guess. You just because I
yeah.
don't like you or like your heritage or whatever, I'm still gonna make sure you get the bare necessities to have life and keep it if it's out without with it, if it's within my grasp to do so. Um, so what got you going on this trajectory tonight?
Oh
I
yeah,
missed
I
that.
spoke about it earlier. I watched the video with Lamar earlier. He was talking to Israel, and
Okay.
in Israel was just talking about the core principles of the group is what really matters. Are we
Yeah.
unified as a people? And again, at the end of the day, that's all that matters, man. Seriously, it's
Yes.
all that matters because it's like it doesn't matter who comes to fight against you. It's the 300, right? And the good thing about the 300 is the fact that they loved each other enough to be willing to fight for each other.
Yeah.
Period. They
Yeah.
didn't all get along. It wasn't about getting along all the time. Again, it's just the fact that they had a unified goal, they had a unified front, and any assault on my village means it's an assault on me. So we're gonna stand together and we're gonna fight together. That's it. That's what unity's
Yeah.
about, man. It's it. And again, it's the
Yeah.
freedom that comes with it. And the reason why I said freedom and unity is because, again, economically, we will never become unoppressed unless we work together. We just won't. We won't really be free unless we start working together, unless we start understanding that together we have to be doing certain things as a unit in order
Collective.
to free all of us. Yeah, we have to. It's just mathematically we have to. There's no other way around it. And
Well,
so,
yeah, it's
okay,
built into our humanity. It's built in each and every person that we,
yeah,
like you said, we're meant to work as a collective, and that we're meant to progress and to move with as a chain connected to somebody else. So the lone wolf, he don't last too long. He does not get
no,
totally free or stay free too long.
at all. And again, it's just the mindset, right? It's the mindset that we have to have. Period. It's like the things because I had thought about the motto of Wakanda, coming together, fighting against economic oppression of all people and those kinds of things. And if you look at it at face value, it's a very daunting task. It's an extremely daunting task,
It is. I
but
mean,
it's not,
yeah.
but it's not impossible, right? You know, because I started thinking about it in terms of the 10x challenge that that I was because I thought about it. It's like we have to get rid of this mindset that it's impossible, right? Just because you haven't seen it yet doesn't mean that it can't happen or that it won't exist or that it can exist. It's the fact you have to believe enough that it's worth fighting for, and then you make it happen. And we can't do it alone. I can't sit up here and talk about this all day, every day by myself. It's not gonna work.
No.
But if we start doing it as a collective, if each one teaches one, all of those kinds of things, and we start seeing that we can all benefit, again, quit worrying about somebody getting ahead before you, right? It's just like what they do in certain cultures, right? They come over to the US, they all live in one house. They buy that house and then they buy the next house for the next person,
I
right?
seen it.
But somebody has to receive the house first. It's just the way it works. Somebody has to receive the house first because you got to get the first one. But all too often, we worried about the person getting the first house, and we basically disrupt the whole system, and none of us have a house by the end of the day, and that's a problem.
Well,
Go ahead.
that speaks to a whole lot of things when it comes to the African American community and the psyche and the impact of slavery and
I know.
the
Trust me.
assault that's
I
been
know. That's why I
yeah
said it's such a daunting task, but you can't look at it as such, right?
yeah
You
right.
have to look
You just
at it as
got
something that's attainable, period. If we don't look
yeah.
at it as something that's attainable, then you'll never achieve it. And so when I started thinking about all of that stuff, it's like, come on, people. Just see that it's about us, period. Period. None of this other stuff really matters. It just doesn't. It's like, who cares
Mhm.
if it's Disney? Who cares if it might be Walgreens next week? Who cares? Right? You know what I'm saying? It don't
But
matter.
it's, I mean,
Go ahead.
I was just thinking, actually, it's a blessing in disguise because every, group needs that behemoth or that Goliath to come up against. It's always the test or the trial by fire that actually solidifies and unifies a group. So what better than to have Disney or just anybody or just any kind of trouble or circumstance come up to give something to buffer against, to give something to grow against
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
grow against and develop against. And I think I've often heard, and we've said it before that, no publicity is bad publicity. So it could have the Streisand effect, just talking to that specific
Yeah, yeah.
example of that being pointed out. But just recognizing that we are truly free, just having a conversation, and you have to continuously have the conversations because a lot of people don't get. I didn't get it on first click. On it took a while
Yeah,
for that idea to really click in my head that you can really do anything you want to do. You are free. You're sovereign, and you can unify with
exactly.
anybody. But it takes a
Exactly.
while. Because we've been so thoroughly indoctrinated by a system at all costs that says resistance is futile, and you will assimilate, and you ain't going nowhere. So that you have to constantly be putting out that signal and at least talk about it, so that it can begin the process of taking root. And somebody plants, another comes by and water, and it just grows,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the increase happens. But you made me think real quick. You made me think of what was that? You made me think of Proverbs 30:27, talking about the locusts have no king, yet they go forth all of them by bands. So
Yeah.
just talking about the ants are well, not the ants, but the locusts are they have no king, but they move with a hive mind once
Yeah,
that
because they got a
signal is
mission.
out.
Yeah, they got a mission. It's like go collect food and bring it back.
Go
It's
eat.
that simple. So go collect it and bring it back. Uh, Dr. Molders, he said something. He said true freedom cannot not exist with fear, and that's powerful, and that's the truth. Uh,
Yeah.
that's very powerful because the fear is the thing that cages you in the first place. Period. It's like without the fear, you can't be caged anyway, right? It's those kinds of things that hold you hostage, and mental hostage is freedom is all here.
Yes.
It's all up between the bony case, right? It's all in your
Yes.
head, and regardless if you're in shackles or if you're in an open field playing today, it's all up here, right? And that's the key thing. And fear will lock you up and keep you in bondage. Period.
Well, yeah, like you said, it's the battlefield is the mind, and the easiest way through to that system is through your heart, your feelings and emotions, which is why a lot of things are targeted when it comes to propaganda, when it comes to perception and posture, when it comes to just the antics, and then the just when it comes to just things that we see, it's often to get your heart. And then once you get somebody's heart, right, and, you start talking to him like an Ali, he gets you so riled up that you just messed up in the head and you can't really move or fight. So the battlefield is truly the mind. And like you said, it has to take root in the mind. You have to allow it to sit there and really click, because if you don't, you will live a life that is in bondage, like Lamar, said that fear is bondage. So you have to, you're going to feel it, but you still have to move forward in the face of fear, even when you
Oh,
get that
always.
feeling. Yeah, so that your movements aren't censored, or your movements aren't captured. That you can move creatively and be free, move with freedom,
Yeah, that's it.
regardless of your situation.
That's it. Yeah, trust me. I mean, even from a scriptural standpoint, it's all about the fear is the thing that keeps you out most of the time. My man Mo said, "My new definition of evil is the absence of love. Love is freedom." And that's it, man. It's this, man. Seriously, at the end of the day, is this. My dude, Tom Billieu, he said something perfect. He said, at the end of the day, we're battling for brain chemistry, right?
Who said that? Some,
uh,
yeah,
Tom Billieu, the dude from
yeah,
Impact, which was I thought was an awesome insight, right? Because at the end of the
yeah.
day, it's this. It literally is. It's the chemicals that we're fighting about up here, and the perceptions and all of those things are literally gunning for this. Because I was just thinking about as you were talking. Is really the captivity of the mind, the propaganda. That's where all the billions go. Because if you truly just think about how many weapons exist on this earth, right? And if it was really about taking over any country, all you had to do, you could bomb the heck out of any country, period. You could literally
Right.
wipe out all humanity and all of that, but that's not effective. The thing that's truly effective is captivating this between our skull.
Man, yeah, yeah. I was just literally, I was on this big trip the other day, kind of researching or re-researching. Um, oh, what was that? The Department of Defense and how they used. It wasn't called the Department of Defense at first. It was called something else. With Edward Bernays,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah, how they hired him. And then you have oh, what is that? uh, warfare with the mind. I forgot what the technical name is, but
Psyops.
psyops, psychological operations, and how
Yeah, yeah,
most of the money is geared towards psychological operations. When you read the Art of War, one of the things
yeah,
about that is just psychological, or operations is really like 90%. A big chunk of the
yeah. It's
book.
huge. Yeah, it's
before you
huge.
even before you even get on the field. So, man, it's very important when it comes to shielding and guarding the things that you consume and what you allow your mind to contemplate and meditate and resonate with. Because if you don't if you're not careful with your thought life, I'm telling you, it
Oh,
will affect your health and
it'll
happiness,
shipwreck you.
and
It'll shipwreck
it'll
you.
shipwreck it in a minute, and you won't. And it's just something, it'll sneak up on you, like, how did my life end up here? And it's like, well, what have you been thinking about, or what have you been consuming, or what are you allowing to captivate and kind of just resonate in your head a lot of times? So it's very important, especially in the African American community. Just looking at some numbers, they may or may not be right. Just talking about the amount of time that, as a whole, as we spend on entertainment and watching movies just in a culture as a whole, on a lot of stuff that we listen to and give our hearts and minds to, not really understanding that this really affects how you behave. It affects your patterns. It affects. It's like, why am I always find myself doing this when I really don't like it or don't want to, or it's just, it's but you'll
You're
find yourself
compelled.
just, huh?
I said you're compelled.
You compare. You'll find yourself like me, just getting the ice cream. Like I don't want it, but it's just so good. um,
So,
but yeah,
eating like
you
the puree
know.
at the old folks' home. Go ahead.
But yeah, you're talking about the freedom and unity, and that you have to constantly be thinking about freedom and unity and what that means to you as a person, and how
Yep.
you're to enact and put and do that in your life. And then when you do that, to go on talking about working on your inward man, which is why
Yes.
on Two Shy Guys we always talk about working on the inner person a lot. That's really like most of the show is, like you said, it's brain chemistry. But once you start working on that and you get in line with that and you start moving forward in that, not to say that you reach total 100% perfection, that affects the outward person, and that affects your relationship with your significant others, your children, your
Yeah, everything.
community. It affects everything. So the battlefield truly is the mind, and just realizing that you as a human being, you're made in the image of the creator, so you have the right to be sovereign, and to move and be and live a life that
Yep.
you want to live. And you have a right to follow leadership if you want to, but like you said, don't blindly follow leadership, and keep them in their proper place, their proper respect when it comes to how you're to look at them. Leaders are there for a reason. Uh, we naturally do have leaders, and we need leaders. But if just understand that if a leader is human, he or she is going to be subject to have some issues and problems along the way too. So if they fall, sorry for them, help them back up,
Yeah.
or whatever. But just
Keep
keep it
moving forward.
moving. Just,
Yeah,
just
you
keep
gotta
it
keep
going.
moving forward. You gotta keep moving forward. And that's the thing. And that's what we all have to be careful of, period. All of us have to be careful of that. And again, just moving in the spirit of love, freedom, and unity. I mean, it's literally just that simple. It's simple in concept. It's difficult in practice because we allow so many other things to be a stumbling block before us, right? We allow obstacles to become, instead of becoming opportunities, they become stumbling blocks, and we fall and we get disoriented and we start fighting amongst ourselves, all of those different things. So you got to be very careful. Make sure that the mission is the mission. Make sure that you understand what the common goal is. And this is for any group. This is not just for Coinda. This is just for any group. You got to have the common core mission. And if you don't understand what the common mission is, then you need to, yeah, and that's a lot of problems that happen in church, right? They lose focus of what the original mission is. They lose big focus on what the original mission is, and any organization that does that will crumble and fall.
Yeah.
Period. Because you can't keep people together if there's no singular vision. Uh, and so anyway, that's literally just my message for tonight. Freedom and unity. I definitely agree with a lot of the comments. I'm thankful for everybody that's participating. And again, just start thinking about that. Like seriously, start thinking about it. We'll definitely follow up on the questions that are in the feed. I don't want to be on here too long tonight. I just wanted to just throw that information out there, get us thinking along the same vein. At the end of the day, it's about freedom and unity, making sure that we care about one another, that we really are focused on the mission at hand, which is the
Mhm.
eradication of economic oppression for everybody, making sure that we have a common goal, that we basically secure our huts within the village, and that we help
Yes.
secure other people's huts within that same village.
Yes.
Common goal, period. If everybody's in the group is based on that common goal, then we can move forward and nothing will disrupt that, period. I don't care who it is, I don't care what it is, I don't care when it is. But if we don't keep that in the forefront of our thoughts, then we'll fall to the side like every other movement and every other group that's happened throughout history. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. History is rife with groups that just fall off. they take off like a rocket and then they just fall off for whatever reason, not keeping freedom and unity at the forefront of the thoughts, the philosophical undergirdings of it. So is it all you had?
I agree, Sia. We need to prove about this love thing. And that's it.
Hmm.
Yeah, we got to.
Well, yeah.
Constant, consistent togetherness, the stuff, I know Lamar has mentioned plenty of times, but it's the same thing we talk about. It's community, man. Period.
Well, I see proof in the pudding
Yeah.
every day that I go through and
Likewise.
it's like, man, these people are giving away pearls as far as education. And it's my fault if I don't take the time to grab some of these pearls and actually, start enacting them in my life. So I can't blame anybody else for myself as far as the education, the mentorship, the things that's being provided specifically in the group, and just the heart and soul of as far as community and tribe there, the energy there. If you don't go in and just get some strength, then you're missing out. I mean, it's all there. The proof is in the pudding, in real time every day.
Yep. I agree. Anyway, we appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Thank you for stopping by our feed whenever you see this.
Yeah,
Be live, Facebook, but potentially YouTube. YouTube will be there. We're slow with YouTube, but we'll eventually be there. But yeah, sign
Instagram.
us out, Kev.
Two shy guys to the mic here, leveling up, thriving, not just struggling and striving, just here having fun. Just talked about freedom and unity today. So, peace out. I think it's all we got for today. We thank you for enjoying our feed. Hopefully, the return on investment is way more than the time and attention that you've given us. Blessings.
Yeah, like and share. Love you guys. Peace.